tools to be successful. I'm just not accessing it. So what gave you that invitation to access it?
I think it's here, but I also think it's here. You know, like if it's not here, then there's no way it's here. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like if it's not in your heart, then you're not going to get out of bed every single day on those hard days, on those days where you don't want to do it, right? Because we all have that. There's no secret to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me every day you wake up and you're like, yeah, I feel like $1 million, no, like you're going to go through ups, downs, this, that, and the other throughout those days. And some of us have tools, and some of us have tools, and some of us don't. But on those days, you have to find a way to break through. So for me, that was the biggest possible thing. Finding a way to break through on those days where you don't want to break through.
See, that's so critical, though, because so many people see those bad days as a reflection or judgment of themselves versus this is the challenge day. Like, you didn't look for your A+ day, right? Tell me about, I think the reason I wanted to have you on was twofold. One is, you know, we talk a lot about strategy. We talk a lot of swing. We talk about a lot of things in sports. But club fitting is so critical because if you don't do it right, you know, people find themselves in trouble. And a lot of my buddies that I play with are like, you know, they're changing heads and all this, and they're not getting fit. Why is it so important for the best players in the world to be fit properly?
Well, it's important for everybody. I mean, and granted, there is and I have to say this out loud because getting fit in today's game, it's expensive. It's a cost, right? It would be considered still, although essential, it's still a luxury item. You know, if you're going to go out and buy a brand new set of sticks, and if you take your game seriously, meaning you want to get better and you're going to invest your time in your game, and you're going to go out and buy new golf clubs and get them fit because it's only to your benefit to have tools that are made for you.
Hey, welcome back to Mental Game Live. I am Dr. Brett McCabe. We are live here tonight on a Tuesday night, August 29th, to talk a little bit about performance in sports. If you got something going on, you got a question you want to answer, make sure you hit us up in our comments section. We try our best to answer every question that's thrown up there, even if it's something that we've already covered, something we want to jam into. And as you know, we do a lot of really good stuff. We talked to some great people. Last week we had U.S. amateur champion Nick Dunlap, who is currently over in Scotland at St. Andrews competing for the Walker Cup. We've got some exciting things to talk about. And most importantly, I just had my birthday yesterday, 51st birthday, 5-1. And what's up, Bash? Hope you're doing well. We locked in and ready to go?
Hey, man.
So I know Tom is
absolutely. How does it feel to be
51?
Yeah, how does it feel to be 51?
Feels like 50. You know, I still feel like I can get out there and get after it on the mound on occasion, though. I know my pant size would be a little bit bigger, but that's
sure.
Yeah. All right. So here's let's bring them in. I'm a youngster show. All right, Mental Game Live hats. There you go. We'll have some information on that and where you can pick them up if you're over here on YouTube, Instagram Live. You can check them out. We got some pretty sweet Mental Game Live stuff going on. I'll be rocking these on tour this year because, you know, it's a nice way to get players to come and join and to talk about the only place that I know on the internet where you can get your live questions answered on Mental Game. You know, the coaches that are on here, I'm still mesmerized why people don't come on here and ask their questions. I'm shocked at that. I get a ton of Ask Me Anythings on Instagram. Every week we do it twice a week, and I get bombarded with questions. What a great place to come on here live and ask your questions and get an immediate response. Not that hard to join us on Mental Game Live. If you've missed a previous episode, don't worry. They're all archived on our YouTube channel, and there's some good ones. And we're going to get after it. Bash, what do you think? Let's dive right in tonight. Like no fluff, no get after. Today, Zach Johnson, captain of the United States Ryder Cup team, announced his second six. So the first six players are automatic qualifiers. Those were Scotty Scheffler, Brian Harmon, Wyndham Clark, Max Homa, Xander Schauffele, and Patrick Cantlay. Today, he announced his second six. And those second six were Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas. And what did you think today? I know you were a little tied up with a sick baby, but what did you think?
About what I expected. I think the biggest question mark, I guess, and just when we were talking and then kind of going back to when the foreplay guys were in town was like, what do you do with Justin Thomas? Like, you have to, based on his past, I mean, you gotta take him, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, he's played just so far below his talent level, I guess, this year is
Sure.
a good way to put it. So, but it's one of those things where is the heat of the moment something where he thrives in? Is this something that I guess ultimately is a catalyst for him moving forward? So I think that was just the biggest. What were they going to do with Justin Thomas?
So it's an interesting question, right? Because if we were building a team, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, if we were building a team for a season and a player like Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Justin Verlander, Ronald Acuna, those types of guys had an off year, you wouldn't jettison them out and not pick them, okay? You would build a team around the players that have performed. Justin Thomas has performed at an elite level in each and every team-based event over the years. And I get it. He had an off year. But there's something very unique about this Ryder Cup that many people have to understand. We are almost a month away from the competition. Most of the time when a season ends, they go right into the team competition. This is a month. Somebody at Justin Thomas's level does not go out and sit on his laurels. He is going to be more motivated than anybody else. And I'm going to tell you right now, I would not go into a Ryder Cup without Justin Thomas on my roster. That man is a tremendous competitor. He's very selfless in those team environments. I've seen it firsthand. He pairs beautifully with Jordan Spieth, which is one of your qualifiers. Even though he was an automatic qualifier, he was essentially an automatic qualifier. You're not going to go to the Ryder Cup without him. And I think one of the things that we have to look at as fans is we're looking at like, oh my God, Keegan Bradley didn't get picked. He was deserving of the Ryder Cup. Cam Young didn't get picked. He was deserving of the Ryder Cup. Lucas Glover didn't get picked. He was deserving of the Ryder Cup. Denny McCarthy didn't get picked. He was deserving of the Ryder Cup. None of those guys aren't not deserving. But the way the situation plays out is that many years ago, and Daniel Rappaport of Foreplay had a really good presence on Twitter today. And there was a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of people upset about it. But D-Rap came up with a pretty good statement. He said, years ago we had no captain's picks. Then it was 2 captain's picks because we wanted to make sure that certain players who had an off year, who are like, if Tiger Woods had an off year, you're not, and he was healthy, you would not take him. Okay, let's be honest. You had to have a safeguard to make sure that you could build what? The right team. This is a team going into competition. Bash and I have been a part of teams our entire life. Okay, and I understand that it's unfair to the players that didn't make it. Okay, but I've also watched all-star teams. The dream team did not take Isaiah Thomas. And there's a lot of instances where the coaching staff and the leadership have to make choices based on the cohesion of the team. And so what's being thrown around is this idea of the good old boy network. Is it an old boys network? It's not like Justin Thomas had, yes, he did not have a Justin Thomas year. In fact, he had a bad year. I think Justin would tell you that firsthand. But I think the other thing about it is when you're looking at the psychological disposition of a team, and you leave and you're not taking him for a bad year. Okay, I get it. All right. He did win the PGA last year, so it's not like he has completely lost his bit. The Ryder Cup could be an amazing place to become a spark for him to play well again because match play usually gets guys going. He is going to work his tail off. He's a tireless worker. And so to me, I look at it as a no-brainer. Now, the question is, as Cheryl said, what about the guys you have to ignore who played their hearts out? How doesn't someone break in then if it's based on the past? That's a great question, Cheryl. Okay. And even Keegan said it best. I tried to connect to guys. I tried to meet with guys, but ultimately I have to play better. You know what? That's exactly right. If you're an automatic 6 qualifier like Brian Harmon and Wyndham Clark, who had never been on the Ryder Cup or President's Cup team, they took care of their business and they broke it and played. If this was Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson at their prime, we would be not thinking anything of it. And so I think what we have to look at, it's the same thing that I say to my college golfers. Don't be fighting for the 7th place or the 6th place or the 1 spot in the van. Win your qualifiers and you get in. I have a very dear friend of mine when we play golf. He always says, take care of your own business. And that's my answer. Okay. Now, Keegan Bradley has a history on the Ryder Cup. He would have been a deserving player on the Ryder Cup. There's no doubt about it. Now, that all being said, it's all going to be judged on how they perform in Rome. And that's what a coach gets measured on. We have a history of going almost 1-12 and taking an all-star team of 9 straight, 9 majors to 0 majors on the European side and getting clocked. Let them build a team. The ultimate goal of the Ryder Cup is not a reward for great play. It's building the right team to go take on the Europeans. And what do we want to do? We have not won there in 30 years. This is a time to try something different. This is a time to put together a team to compete and to win. And there are going to be people left out and there are going to be hurt feelings. But I trust the captains, the captain and Zach Johnson and the vice captains. I trust them to put together the right pairing, and I hope our players win. Because at the end of the day, that's what's matter. And, I think if we can get the mindset focused on what it took to get it done versus it's an all-star team. My coach used to have a comment, Bash, and I'm sure you heard this. I don't want to play the 9 best players. I want to play the what?
Best 9.
The best 9. Give them a little example of what that means.
It's not always the most talented guys on the roster or girls on the roster. It is in this case is a baseball example. It is the 9 guys that work the best together on the field to get the result that you need.
Correct. And that's why I'm a big fan of all my college golf coaches having the ability to pick their team. You have qualifying, but then the coaches should have that discretion because there are many times where a player simply plays better because somebody else is on the roster with them. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's always fair, but how do we get measured as coaches? Wins and losses. We get it done. Okay. And I think what the power of this is the ability to perform when it matters. And does he make other players on that roster better? Absolutely. Absolutely he does. Does that mean the other guys that got left out wouldn't? No, that's not what this means. There were no detractors. And that's what makes this hard. But there's only 12 spots. And you have to take the best 12 that builds a team in the red, white, and blue to go beat the Europeans. That is the agenda. That is the goal. Now, here's the disclosure. I'm very honored. I'm very excited that Sam Burns, one of my clients, is going to be playing. I think it's awesome. He deserves it. He's one of the best, grittiest, competitive players there is. He was a captain's pick, but he's won 5 times in the last 3 years. He won the World Match Play this year in a pretty dominating factor. He was going through a little stuff in the middle of the season. He got it squared away, and he came on strong at the end. I'm so excited. My wife and I are going to be going to Rome to cheer him on. So, Tucker, I think Keegan can bring the energy.
I don't have anything going on that week, I don't think.
What, you don't have anything going on that week?
I don't think so.
Yeah. There's some fired up people about Keegan in there, and I understand that.
How do you feel, though, if you're Cam Young? Especially, I'd go back to the Fred Couples comment back in the summer. Like, as a vice captain, like, this guy's going to Italy. And then I know things change, whatever, but that's got to suck. We just pull the rug right from under me.
It's a simple factor. The unfortunate thing, Cam Young didn't make Atlanta. He didn't make the Tour Championship. And Justin didn't make, and JT didn't make the playoffs, right? Adjusted 70 players. It stinks, right? And I can imagine there's a lot of disappointment. But as a player who did not get the call the last time, and I remember Sam was probably number 13 or 14 in the group last time, he got it done this year. He did what he had to do. Sam is one of the top putters on the PGA Tour. He's one of the best drivers of the golf ball when he's on a roll. His ball striking was flawless the last couple weeks. The trend is there. And he brings the thing about somebody like a Sam Burns. Zach Johnson said to him, not disclosing anything inside. Sam is well liked by about everybody in that. I wouldn't say just about everybody. I'd say Sam Burns can work with, on that roster. He's a utility guy. And you know what? When he played in the President's Cup, Smiley Kaufman, our good friend, NBC golf announcer, he said something today to me that I thought was brilliant. He said, hey, if the 24 players were in a tournament at Quail Hollow during the President's Cup, Sam Burns would have won the tournament. He had the lowest point to score. I just got an interesting question. Was that me that was celebrating with Victor Hovland after he won at the Tour Championship? No, that was his agent. We look alike, though. Yeah, it was on Instagram.
Gotcha.
I want to make sure that I don't pretend to be something I'm not. But look, the USA team has got a major uphill climb. Victor Hovland is playing some stupid, insane golf. Kudos to Joe Mayo, his coach, who got in after it. Victor, I've been around many years. I love that kid to death.
What a guy.
You know what? I'll tell a story. A couple of years ago, I was in a practice round with Victor. And obviously, he's one of the top young players in the game. And we did the practice round, and we were cutting up about a couple things. The next day, he walks over the range, shakes my hand, and says, really enjoyed walking with you yesterday, Brett. I was like, all right, that was pretty good. Okay. 2 days later, hey, Brett, how you doing? I'm good, Victor. How you doing? To this day, hey, Brett, how you doing? And he and I had a conversation because during COVID, he and his dad drove around the country from tournament to tournament so they could see the states. I thought that was awesome. So I'm a big fan of Victor Hovland. Love his caddy, Shay. Love everything that they do. So very excited.
Just contagious smile.
You know what? But he said something too. When I shifted his mindset away from playing away from mistakes and he started becoming more intentional about what he wanted to do, he started playing better. And it's a mindset shift. But here's the deal. The mindset shift came because he trusted he had the right tools to compete. He finally felt like he had the short game in place the way he wanted it. He started hitting the ball the way he wanted it, and his putter got hot, which he's a brilliant putter, but you get my point. Putters get hot. And after that, let's be honest. Now, Xander played right there with him. Huge fan of Xander Schauffele's game and Xander. Love Xander to death. To see them play that way, that was awesome golf. Sam would have come in fourth in that tournament. He shot 10 under, started at even. So Sam played great. I think there's a question on there about the pressure going into the Ryder Cup, and I'm just jumping ahead because I see it. I'll ask you, Bash, when you were getting ready to play a big game, what did you think about it? How did you conceptualize those big game moments?
I honestly tried to. I think beforehand you feel the pressure or the gravity of the moment, but when you're in the moment and competing and playing, you don't. It's no different than.
Correct.
No matter how high the stakes are, like you're playing the game.
So the President's Cup last year was really cool to watch in the United States and at Quail Hollow. It gave a lot of guys a really good example. I would say that the President's Cup is very, very, very important. The Ryder Cup is just a step higher because of the history, right? And that surge, the President's Cup was unique because as we're walking through, I've got a picture of Sam or Billy and Sam playing together, walking through the tunnel to the first tee, and you walk out there and President Clinton is there and President Bush is there. And it's just this awesome amphitheater, and you're standing underneath, and I'm inside the ropes. I'm listening to. I'm like, man, I just want to fire up, right? What I always tell players to do about the Ryder Cup or these big moments is to focus on and get locked into what's the easiest thing you can do with the most aggressive way to do it. Okay, so don't go in there. Your mind is automatically going to start picking on all the negatives and what the what ifs. But if you can look at it and flip it to, I've got all this adrenaline. I want to hit the one shot that I know I can hit, and I want to rip it. And a lot of times players will pull it a little bit because they're so quick and fast, and I'm fine with that. So we kind of make it an understanding that they're probably going to rip it just a little bit, and then it's the job of the caddy as they're walking to talk with them or their teammate in that environment. As you know, as a starting pitcher who's usually the one that's got all the adrenaline in a baseball game, sometimes your job as a catcher was to go out and not really say anything. It's just to slow it back down and just be talking to you. And your talk would probably be a little slower. Now, I always say, when a pitching coach or the head coach would come out to the mound, they would watch the way that they talk. They would slow things down when they communicate to you. And it was never like 4 different ideas. It was always one. Like, hey, listen, umpire strike zone's really tight right now. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're committed to our spots and we're going to compete. Okay? They wouldn't go into anything more than that. They would slow down and communicate. And the reason for that is your mind is already racing, and we are very energy transfer people. So the fact that somebody around us can start slowing down, it will slow us down. So the things I tell them is like the caddies, hey, listen, don't go racing out in front of a player. Stay back. Talk to them, give them water, make sure they're eating, keep them focused. And it's a job of the caddy. And that's why one thing I love about the Ryder Cup is they highlight the power and the influence and the contributions of the caddies. They are members of the team, and they are competing with them. I love that. So, yeah. So, any questions that have come in off of this? I think we just talked about the role of the caddies that Tom asked.
Yeah, the role of the caddy. I think William asked, I think we were talking about like the pressure. Talking about, was that just from repetition? It was talking about how you approach pressure with Sam, kind of went into the pressure and just, you asked me the question about how you handled it.
Yeah, and it's also, we can't simulate what that pressure is going to be, right? We can't simulate what Victor went through at the Tour Championship. Joe Mayo, thank you. Appreciate the ice chew. I'm an ice chewer. Sorry. I can't, sorry, Instagram. I go back and forth. When you look at somebody who's learning a new motor movement, like Victor's chipping, Joe Mayo has posted a lot of brilliant videos. And a lot of it is hitting different shots from different spots. But once Victor got comfortable with what he's doing, then it became a lot of repetition of chaos, changing things and experiencing it. And then give him a lot of credit early in the season. While he was playing good golf, he wasn't playing elite golf. He was not abandoning that new idea. He was working the shot process that he had. He was executing so that when he got under more pressure, he knew what to do it. The interesting thing is like there was a comment in here that said when he made that 12-foot par putt on 14, that was a huge moment because Xander was getting really close. But the fact is that when you're chasing somebody and you see the person you're chasing like Victor make that putt, it's one of those momentum moments. During every course of round, there's about 3 to 4, any game, there's about 3 or 4 momentum shifts that happen. The question is, are you up for them or are you going to let them pass before you get to them? And so anyway, I'm pumped. I'm excited about all that. I think it's something to learn. And any lasting thoughts about the Ryder Cup? I will come back. Make sure you follow me on my social media pages. We will be there all week. We're going to be at the course. We're going to be at the hotels. We'll go see some sights in Rome. But this is exciting. I'm going to celebrate one of my guys reaching one of his pinnacle of ideas. Any thoughts, Bash?
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm free. that week.
You're free. Okay.
Yeah. I'll bring my computer and work, obviously, but
Yeah, it's I've had my flight for probably 4 months, my wife and I's.
No, it's all good. I'm just kidding, man.
But this morning when I got the call officially, then it became a scramble for hotels because the hotels are now refundable during this week. So there wasn't anything I could do to book ahead of time. And then it was, where to go, where to stay. And I'm not in the team hotel. I'm not that kind of stuff because of number of coaches allowed and stuff like that. So, what are the broadcast times like? I have no idea yet. It's going to be early morning over here, but it'll be fun to watch.
No doubt.
All right. How about when we come back, we're going to talk about types of players you want to have to build your
I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's all right. You're rusty.
Going to break.
You had a week off. You get rusty on me.
Jeez.
I was thinking we were talking about team and why players get picked. The things that don't in like a golf situation because we're not really a team sport. Baseball, when you look at a roster of 35, you look at organizations and why certain players are brought in as free agents. You hear it a lot in baseball as their clubhouse guy. Okay. And a major league franchise will bring in a veteran because they'll set the right tone. They'll establish accountability in the clubhouse. You see it in the NFL. I'm assuming, Tom, you see it in hockey where you bring in a clubhouse guy to help teach the younger players the ways of the road, to be the glue, people who are well-liked, right? You also have other players that will do the dirty work. They're the ones that will, take care of business when business needs to be taken care of. They'll bridge between the coaches and the staff. And there's all kinds of different ones on the organization. We talked earlier about building the best 9, not the 9 best. This is what we're talking about. So in my mind, there are 6 different people you need to have when you build a team. And I know we have high school coaches on here. We have college coaches that watch this. Sometimes you don't get to pick your team. But the important thing is you help share what role you see your player in. Okay, so we're going to talk about the 6 here, and I'm going to give you some examples. Number 1 is the stars. Every team better have some superstars on your squad. If you don't, we got a talent deficiency, okay? But you have probably 2 or 3 that are your superstars. They're the ones on professional sports that are going to be interviewed at every game. They're going to be the ones that are skilled on giving the press conferences. They're going to be the ones that can take the boos. They're the ones that do not shy away from the big moments, right? Those are critical people, men and women. The stars, we had 2 of those on earlier this year, and Paul Skeens and Montana Fouts. They were going to be interviewed before every game, before every series. They wanted the ball in the biggest moment. Stars, though, are not born that way. They're developed, they're trained, they're created. They usually have a brilliant work ethic. But sometimes stars can be seen as selfish. They can be very self-absorbed. They can be very focused on themselves, and that's how they became a star. And I played with a star. You caught a star. He's still in the major leagues. And they're great guys, great women, but sometimes, a lot of things will roll about what they want, and that's okay. That's why they're the stars. If you have a star on your team, your job is to support them, to ask them to follow pretty much the rules. And what I mean by that is sometimes these are people who do things that are so special, they do things outside the rules. They may, have a certain way of doing things. Like we had a star one year that asked coach if he could call all his own pitches. And he had earned that right in his 4th year, and coach relented and said, sure. The guy was prepared. He was ready. He pitched 8 years in the major leagues. Okay. He was a star. Those are guys that are men and women. Those are our people that we need to support Give them the platform, let the light shine on them, and let them run. A lot of times the mistake is we see what the stars get, and we try to bring them in and make them equal to everybody else in the organization, or we try to make them follow what everyone else does. And I know what people are going to say is, shouldn't it be all one rule for the whole team? That sounds great, but sometimes stars are bigger than that. And it doesn't mean that they're coming at the expense of the rest of the team, but sometimes the stars, they may warm up a certain way. They may need their own focus. Find out what they need, and usually you can win the battle with them by getting in their same page. Thoughts on stars there, Bash?
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, especially the higher you get. Yeah, for the most part. I would just say, like, the higher you go and the higher you play, like, the stars get a little bit more leeway from the rules.
Yeah.
They just, especially when you get in, like, the big leagues. When I was in, like, summer ball or whatever, like, very much the rules. Everybody, like, had to follow the rules or whatever. You didn't play. Show up on time or you didn't play.
Got a great comment. Got a great comment. If you want to be treated like a star, then become a star. The funny thing is, right, is that it's people get upset when we say that, but the reality of the fact is, the vast majority of the stars, they got to become the stars because they did everything right. What happens is, it's kind of like you go see a master chef, Michelin star chef. They do something just a tad bit different. What happens is they haven't abandoned what it took to get there. We're not talking about egotistical assholes. Understand what we're talking about. We're talking high contributing stars. Usually the stars, when do they show up? First.
Rhetorical or?
No, they usually show up first. Who stays the longest? It's usually the stars. Okay. What I mean is certain rules is that I've had one of our stars, he asked for a different way to warm up. That what we all did. It wasn't at our expense. It was just something that he had refined over time. And as a pitcher, it worked. And he dominated. Okay. Paul Skeens for LSU. They're exactly. Now I see what you're saying over here on the comment. They're obsessed. Exactly. Paul Skeens, he wore one jersey all season at LSU because the starting pitcher gets to pick what jersey and uniform combo they want to wear when they pitch. He just liked wearing one thing. So guess what they wore every single time he pitched? Purple tops, white bottoms. That's what he liked. I think he earned that right. Number one pick in the draft. Now,
I have to fact check you on that.
Well, unless somebody else packed him. But yeah, I think he pretty much wore the same thing every time. Unless it got forced on him. But I think I'm pretty right on that one. All right, number 2, Dose. We have what I call the Doers. Now, here's the deal. Doers could be stars in development. They're early in their developmental process. They're people who get it done. They deliver. You want to call them the mailmen, mail women? That's fine. But they're the ones that take care of the business. A lot of times they'll set the stage for the stars. They're the up and coming. They're the next generation of player. If you think of the Atlanta Braves, this is Austin Riley when Freddie Freeman was on the lineup. Okay. Who's the star now of the Atlanta Braves? Austin Riley's one of them. They have a bunch of them. Okay. But the beauty of a doer is that they're going to do the things that are necessary. They're consistent, even though I hate the word consistent. They deliver. They take care of the business. And our job as coaches is to make sure we know who our doers are. The doers will do it in whatever they need. They want to perform, and usually they're highly, highly, highly team focused. Okay. They're in it. They're learning. They're going to be seeing themselves. They got to see themselves as stars and start developing into stars. Okay. They need more experience. They need more belief in themselves because they haven't done it enough. The thing about doers, though, is they will deliver for you when you need it. They are going to be the ones that maybe will defer a little bit of the spotlight to the stars, but they may be looking at the star thinking, I see myself there one day. Okay. These are if the stars are our Hall of Fame, World Series, epic players, these are our all-stars. These are our all districts. They're the team MVPs because of who they are. Thoughts on the doers? Any thought?
I saw comment from Tom talking about Wayne Gretzky. Was that a doer as Wayne Gretzky as a doer or a star? Because
he had to be a star because
had to be, but it came in after the Doers, so I was wondering.
Yeah, it had to be a star because other guys who we'll talk about took care of business so Wayne Gretzky could have an opening.
Yeah.
The thing about a doer is
okay. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yeah. The thing about a doer, the thing about doers is that, they're going to get a lot of attention. They're going to have high production, but they're driven and they're just a little bit earlier in their development cycle, in my opinion. They want it. They're going to study film. They see themselves in that role. They're motivated, and so forth. Okay. You can develop into a star, and stars can fall back into doer status if somebody bigger comes on the squad. I think one thing about a doer is that they're willing to give the spotlight to the star. And so if there's somebody who's really good on the team and a superstar comes in on the trade deadline, they'll pull back a little bit to put the star up in that position. Now, obviously, you want 2 or 3 stars that play together and work together. My experience is when they start having team dysfunction is because the stars have eclipsed star status and moved into ego status, and there's no doers behind the scenes to pull it back together. Okay. Let's go to number 3, builders. Builders. Okay. These are people who, if you have doers that are a little bit higher up the performance status, okay, you have the superstars, stars, superstars, you got the doers. The builders are the ones that pave the way a little bit. Okay. They're the ones that are building the systems and the processes to implement. So if it's putting in effort in the weight room on the team, they're the ones that are putting in the effort. If they're the ones that are listening to the coaching staff and modeling that behavior, they're the ones that are modeling that behavior. If they're the ones that need to, put the bunt down to get a runner to third, they're the ones that are going to do it. They're going to do all the little things. They're probably further away from a developmental star status, but they are the ones that will build the culture. They will build the execution. This is the place where a lot of teams fail. They go heavy on stars, they have some doers, and they fail on the builders. The builders, those are the ones that will do the work. They do the little things right. They answer the call time and time again. They just may not be that good. They're not stars. Okay, they may have some developmental deficiencies that have to get better, but they're not afraid of doing the dirty work by any means. Okay, and they're successful at what they do. They may be role players. They may be journeymen. They may be a job to come in and clean up the inside, right? It was funny. I can remember when Landon Dickerson arrived at Alabama football. We had a lot of stars, but we had a lot of glue guys, exactly. And Landon Dickerson came in at the center position and changed the entire culture of that offensive line. He built other men to be stars. And in doing so, he became a star. But he's going to play 13, 14 years in the NFL. He's talented. He has talent. But his role was a builder. He highlighted the roles of other guys on that team. And it was awesome. Yes, he probably became a doer, kind of became a star in his own right. But his job as the builder, he had men following him. Okay. He was a little bit of a Pied Piper. What about supporters? Number 4, supporters. Supporters are a little further down the list. Okay. They may be backups. They may be support staff. They might be, people on the outside that are looking at what's going on, but they're there to support the development of what other people do. Sometimes it's practice squad players. It might be the individuals on the team who's, running scout team, right? Which people don't look at and they go, scout team doesn't matter. Trust me, it matters. Okay. Supporters could be, making sure that we have the right-hand person there for the right star. And their job is to be that person. It's their best friend. It's somebody who's in that position where they like. I remember a story of a very troubled Major League Baseball MVP who went from one franchise to another, and he struggled at the new franchise. And he struggled with the new franchise because they realized that the older clubhouse assistant manager was his confidant. It was his supporter. It was one of the only people that he could connect to in the organization. And he stayed in the original franchise that did not go with him in the free agency deal. That's what a supporter is. And a lot of times we see supporters as the only ones on the field. When I'm talking about a team, sometimes it's the head assistant coach is the major supporter. It's sometimes an assistant coach on a team is that one coach that helps build belief and teach people what to go through. Okay? Supporters. Did you know any good? Did you have an example of a good supporter on your team?
I think the best supporters were like just I wouldn't necessarily call them glue guys, but just guys that the bullpen catchers, if you will.
Yeah.
Guys that were there, and would do anything for the squad. But like they're always on the top step of the dugout, always like they're always into the game. Though that's like what comes to mind when I think of.
So I'll give you an example. I'm not going to call him out by name, but last year in Alabama basketball, we had a guy on our team who's going to have a good year this year. We had a guy on our team that, as the season was starting, coach had been on him all off season. I mean, like relentless. Okay, like bullseye, arrow, right there. And I told this guy before the season, I said, you're in the most critical position on the bench. Because if you sit on the bench frustrated because you're good enough, back to our Ryder Cup conversation, you're good enough to get 25 to 30 minutes a game, okay? You're good enough to go to another SEC school and be dominant with your physical skill set. You are log jammed here. There are players that are stars ahead of you. 2 players that essentially win in the lottery, okay? But your job is, if you sit on the bench with your head up your rear end and you're pouting that you're not getting playing time, the rest of the bench will follow because you have a infectious personality. But if you're the first guy off the bench when the team comes to a timeout, you're the towel guy, you're the hype guy, and when your minutes come, that absolutely, that bench will follow you to the moon and back because you're doing the shit work when nobody else wants to do it. And you're in there sometimes when other guys are in foul trouble and you're going to change the game with energy. And you may not play another minute in the next game. And I went to the team retreat on Monday of last week, and I sat down and I said, do you remember? And he stood up in front of everybody. He said, guys, it was the hardest thing to do. But he did provide some serious minutes, changed a couple games, got a couple highlight reel dunks. He's going to have a hell of a year because he's better because of it. And I commended him. I told him in front of the entire team. And one of the coaches actually called him out and said, he is still bringing the energy every down, and he's going to be a starter. Like, he's going to start, and he probably will become an all-conference player. The kid will play in the NBA, okay? The kid is that good. But last year, he could have easily tanked the team. He was the supporter. Nobody wants to be the bench guy. Nobody wants to be the motivational guy. But to your point, sometimes that bullpen guy who comes in and everybody laughs at because they respect him, he's in the game, he's not over there pouting. Sometimes that's our favorite guy on the bench. And
then it never fails when those guys get in the game.
Oh, my God.
They always do well. They always succeed.
And the bench shows it, don't they?
Goes nuts. Yeah,
goes nuts.
The bench goes absolutely nuts.
Yes. And I've worked with scout team players in football. Like, I mean, my God, just be a punishing ram, right? And it sucks. But the guys that have an attitude who show up every day, they start earning the respect of those other guys. It changes the culture of the team when the bench guys, the scout guys don't go into the tank. When they stay in it and they realize that every practice is their BCS national title game. Every game is their World Series game. And it's not like, dude, okay, I don't need to be hit that hard, but it's like they understand their role. I've been in that role. For 3 years, I was in that role. It sucked. But I like to think it contributed to something. Hope I earned the respect of my teammates. Rudy was a perfect example. Rudy, but there's some other great ones out there too of players who came in and got the job done. Okay. Tucker said, I think on our college baseball team, it was the guys who knew they weren't starting or getting a lot of playing time, but still showed up every day. Damn right. 100%. All right, let's go to the next one. The janitors. All right. It's a little bit different. Okay. These are the guys, the men and women guys, the players, the contributors that clean up the crap. Okay. They could be stars, they could be whatever, but what I want you to really focus on is what this action is. We're talking about glue guys, right? And the glue guys that pull everybody together, but the janitors are the ones that get rid of the garbage behind the scenes. They pull the distraction away. They take care of the business so the superstars can get their stuff done. And they're the ones that do the work at night. They do the work behind the scenes. They do the work, the cohesion of the team groups and all that other stuff. And there's every team I've been on, there's one or two janitors that if there's a fight going on between players, they take care of it. They're the mediator. They know how to circumnavigate it. They know how to help people get through it. They clean up the BS. They're a lot of times the buffer between the coach and the players. They're not taking sides. They're just making sure that things don't fester. They take out the garbage. They get rid of the trash around the team. They're so powerful because when people are bitching about the food they're getting, they're like, guys, listen, it doesn't matter. They take care of the business. Okay. They could be players, and then maybe you may say, well, no, I've got a doer like that. It's what's that role on the team. And everybody needs somebody who takes out the garbage, that cleans up after themselves, that takes care of the business to make sure that some of the standards are maintained. Did you have any janitors?
On a couple occasions, yeah. Not every team had one, but teams that did, you could definitely identify them for sure.
So one of the elements I look at when I go in a locker room is the quality of the locker room. Okay. And if the locker room is a disaster, it's a sign of disrespect for what the contribution is that's there before. Does that mean teams that keep a good, clean locker room are going to win? No. Does that mean teams that keep a shit locker room are going to lose? No. But it's behaviors. Okay. There's a respect of systems and organizations. And it's not that the janitor goes and cleans up after everybody. But the thing about a janitor is they make sure that people understand the value of the people who come behind them, right? There's a very famous clip of Ed Reed talking about players in the locker room of the Baltimore Ravens taking their tape off and throwing it, and volunteer firemen are serving as the janitors to come in. And he's like, we are no better than the people who come up to clean after. Own it. And it's an old All Blacks thing. Leave the locker room, sweep the shed, clean it up, leave it better than you have. You've got to have somebody on your roster and your team that is the janitor. Then maybe the person on the team is like, guys, you sit up here and you sign every autograph. You look kids in the eye. You do that, okay? And those are the respect factors. It may be a player who's older, who's been around, who's lost a little bit of their star stature, but is teaching the way. You and I are working with a major league franchise that's got some player development guys that are doing that exact thing. Okay? They get bypassed. They get looked on. Like, if you remember kids and when you're in school, the janitors, you're always like, oh, the janitors. Janitors do the toughest work and they deliver it at the highest level. That's what a janitor is. All right, last, cheerleaders. A cheerleader is somebody who, let's be honest, their job is to make sure that we're all getting to where we need to go. They got to bring the energy. They're the spirit squad. They're the energy folks. They're there to pick you up, all that. There is a hierarchy in team sports. There's a hierarchy on the U.S. Ryder Cup team. You've got players. I think historically when we took a look, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, historically the Ryder Cup has always favored the Europeans, particularly in Europe, because they're more cohesive as a team. And people say, well, I don't even know who that guy is. I can guarantee you that they filled one of these roles on the European squad. And so often on the American squads were built around their all-star and their level of play. And they lacked the different team perspectives. I can guarantee you, looking at this roster, there are differences. People are talking about Justin Thomas. I can tell you Justin Thomas is going to be one of the other ones than being a star. He's not the star right now. He may play like a star. He's not the star. He will be a builder if I had to guess. Okay, he's going to take care of the business. He's going to do the little work. He's going to answer all the critics. He's going to be the focus of attention right now. He ain't afraid of that. He's going to do his work. He's going to take on the responsibility. He's going to build each other up. There are going to be guys on that squad that are cheerleaders, okay? And they may become a cheerleader during the middle. They may get out on the cart and go cheer somebody on, and they may be playing like total crap. But a cheerleader is somebody who's there for everybody else. And there are times that players aren't playing. They may be hurt. They may be not playing a lot, and they can turn it and cheer for somebody else. Those are the 6 types of players you need on a team. And I agree with the comment that I saw, Tom. Every coach should understand this. But you know what one of the problems is? Coaches, I'm talking to you right now. If you do not have regular conversations with your players on what their development plan is, their role on the team, and what you can do to help them grow, you are failing your players. If you don't understand by looking at your roster what the different roles these players are playing and get them to buy into it, then you're not giving them the honest truth because you're afraid of how they're going to respond to you, not how they're going to impact the team. There you go.
Boom.
That will probably get some fired up comments on social media.
Why? The thing about it is those types of comments, though, will usually get some play because and people get defensive.
Yeah.
Because they know it's true.
Correct. All righty. Any other questions before we bail out tonight? We got a little leftover birthday cake.
We had one from Jason. Just going about. You hear guys say they're shaking on the first tee. What's the best way to deal with that? Is it routine?
So when people are shaking, nervous before they play, you watch football players, they'll get amped up. I like players like that to go expend some energy. Yell, scream, jump, do deep knee squats, take some hard, fast practice swings, and then come back to it. You can't suppress the feeling that's coming. First thing I would do when I'd feel that way is I'd throw it as hard as I could when I was in the spot. I didn't care if I hit my spot or not.
Be like in Bull Durham, just throw it halfway up the backstop.
Hit the bull. So Tucker said Europe was already playing practice rounds like 3 weeks ago. Watch practice rounds at big events on the PGA Tour. The pods are already playing together. They know. They knew who was playing and who was where. So, all right. I got some cake in my future.
Love it.
I do too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Mental Game Live tonight and on Instagram. Make sure you follow me on YouTube to make sure that we got everything you need. Hit me up on our social media platforms. Share these videos. Get people to come. The fact that the number of people that are here tonight blows me away that people would spend an hour with us, 2 brats that are talking crap about sports. But we love it, and we're going to keep doing it. And we'll do it if it's just the 2 of us. But let's get a bigger audience. Make people come, share their ideas, tell them they get the questions answered because we want to get better. We want to help you get better. And most importantly, we want to maximize the mental game for all of us to perform the way we want to when it matters at the right time. Go Team USA.